Recording. We're recording and I'm ready to go. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of The Right Stuff. Today is going to be a special episode. Scott Moon, who's my partner right over here for the people on the audio or video feed, he is at the Smarter Artist. Nah, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. Smarter. Okay, here we go. I gotta do an exercise. The Smarter Artist Summit. There we go. Down in you're in Austin, Texas, right?
I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm at the lovely Wyndham Hotel, which is not lovely, but it's okay.
Which has crappy internet.
Yeah, I didn't come here for crappy internet and all that, and the extremely poor service at the last night. We had a mastermind group, and it was like an hour and a half to get the food. And there's like 20 or 30 people maybe in the restaurant, and there was like 5 or 6 wait staff working, and they were running all over the place. But I was like, nobody's ever moving any food. What are they doing? And they come back, like, they brought us all the food eventually, and they said, what else do you need? And we're like, forks? Anything that you would need to eat.
Nice.
Anyway,
maybe some napkins here or there.
I don't know. They were trying hard, I guess, but whatever. So anyway, and then we started this. We did episode 4 a minute ago, and my phone or my computer wasn't working because of the Wi-Fi not good or something. So anyway, Smarter Artist Summit. That's something I got turned on to. You turned that on me onto the self-publishing podcast. I listened to that.
I turned you on.
You did. Now here I am at a hotel in Austin. Listen to the Write, Publish, Repeat book, which is great, and
that's put on by the self-publishing podcast, guys, right?
Self-publishing podcast guys, and then I was watching, I think, episode 200, and they had a raffle or something that was live, and I won a ticket to come to this conference. So I come down here.
Lucky bastard.
It's pretty fantastic. So I made a bunch of crazy, ridiculously sloppy notes and whatnot. My little book. The first day I tried to take my computer, and it turned out I just had too much stuff to lug around. But I guess some overall things about it that I thought was impressive is there's about 100 to 150 people. I'm not sure what the official final count was of how many attendees, and they were at all levels of self-publishing in their journey. So you had people that were like getting ready to publish their first book, but most of the people, I'd say, so what do you write? They'd tell me their genre, and it's either usually there's a lot of fantasy, a lot of science fiction, but a lot of romance and some erotica, which apparently in Canada they call active romance.
Yeah, they're active, all right.
Yeah, Mark Lefebvre, I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong. He's one of the people that was here, and I wound up not knowing who he was at first, sitting next to him at a live podcast that they did before the whole summit started. But he is basically he runs Kobo's the Writing Life app, which is like KDP but for Kobo. And so I'm sitting there, I'm talking to him, and he's telling me what he does. I'm asking, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, really? I'm so out of my league with these people, you know. And the guy
didn't you say you gave some? Okay, you were just going to say that.
I gave the guy a ride over to the place. That was Tuesday night, and it was Dan Wood, and he's basically in charge of author services and a bunch of stuff with Draft to Digital. And just a super nice guy. I'm just talking to him. I saw just another writer or something there, and he's like, yeah, well, he's telling me about Draft to Digital. I realize he's the Draft to Digital guy. And I sit next to the guy who is in charge or designed basically and runs the Writing Life, which is if you want to directly upload your stuff to Kobo, which I will be doing with my next books, although I'll be using Draft to Digital for everything else except for Amazon.
Does Draft to Digital, do they do Kobo?
Yeah,
but are you saying that it's better to do directly to Kobo than to go through?
There's a couple of things with it. If you go to there's a lot of talk about having a rep in some of these platforms, and this wouldn't necessarily give you a rep, but if you do direct load it directly to the Writing Life or the Kobo app, then you're going to have a chance to do some promos. There's some promo options that are not there if you do it other ways, as I understand it. Because
Okay.
I drafted digital and just fired everything off, and I was really happy with the results. But I'm going to try tweaking that a little bit. And they want you to succeed. You know, he talked a lot about.
Well, I'm sure that it makes them money when you make money.
You know, he wants to have a rock star superhero come and make them tons of money, and it'll be good for him, good for the program. And so when they get a writer there, they want you to succeed. You know, they want you to do well, and they're cheering for you. So. But the reason I brought up the story about him initially was, of course, Kobo's in Canada.
Right.
It's a Canadian, or was a Canadian company now. I think some in Japan owns it now. But so he's talking. In part of his presentation, he's going on, and everybody's like, "What?" And it's like, "Oh, that's erotica. That's what they call erotica.
Active romance."
I don't know. It makes me chuckle when I think about it. So there were some good platform things and stuff there with Drafted Digital, Kobo. The guy that was sitting in front of me was I wrote down so many names. I'm having a brain freeze, but he designed the Book Funnel app, which is an app where you can use to give away your book for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did a book that I got. And it's a real neat little app. I like that. There was representatives from Podium Publishing, which is they do audiobooks, and they talked about casting for your audiobook and how it's really important, rather than just taking somebody who kind of sounds good, who you like, or you know, just a friend of yours, something like that, and how important and stuff that is. I kind of lose my train of
Now,
thought.
does Podium, is that like a publishing company where you submit your work to them and they pick it up and they run with it, or is that where is it like ACX where you pay someone to do it?
They will put it on Audible, but yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it a lot. I'm not sure if that's something where you got to get them to accept you, just like, oh, there's my battery warning.
If you need to plug it in, you can do that too.
Yeah, I'm going to walk around in this classy hotel room. But I do want to show you one thing here. If you can see it. You see
oh, yeah.
You see the top window frame?
Yep.
It looks like it's been opened a few times. So I was like, I wonder if I could open this window. And I'm like, yeah, it's been done. So,
it was a nice view.
Yeah.
Whenever
it opened up so I could see Austin.
We need to have like a special live in-person show, and then I don't know, do it on top of City Hall or something.
Yeah, we should do that. There's actually some places that would be interesting. So, but basically, I'm not sure if that's something where you have to like submit your work and then they submit it to another, like if you're going to go with traditional book publishing,
right?
Or if it's something where you can hire them to produce your book. And I think it might be the latter. I didn't get a chance to look through their website, and I didn't get the guy's first name was James, that gave the talk there from Podium Audiobooks. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. There's so many people to talk to, and it was hard to get enough time with everybody. Some of the other interesting things that was there's a guy, one of the attendees, his name's Ben Hale, and he writes fantasy, and it's fantasy that's kind of safe for kids. It's not like dirty or raunchy or
right.
Violence. So right. Kind of cool. But the thing about him that's interesting, he's a super nice guy for one, but he had made the statement to somebody that he almost had everybody's name memorized. And so they called him out on it. They said, come to the front of the class and let's have you say everybody's name. And it's like at least 100 people there. I mean, the whole place is full. It's this big thing. And so everybody stands up, and he named every single person at the conference, including the sound guys and the camera guy and just anybody helping out there. I was like, man, that dude.
Wow.
I was calling him because he apparently he could put it together.
You know, I think I saw something on their Instagram about that, where the guy was standing up on stage and he was rattling off people's names, and I was like, man, so he has some kind of photographic memory, or I don't know what you would call it on.
Well, I think that the part of the point of bring that up is that that everybody there was real social, but interested in all the other people, and so he was very attentive. Ben probably was the most of all of them. You know, when you talked to him, he was really listening to you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of writing conferences and stuff like that. Every time you talk to somebody, you feel like they're mostly just wanting to pitch their book to you, or something, or you know, or further their writing platform. And there's a little bit of that here, but people would, because you'd ask them, hey, what do you write? And they'd tell you about it, but they would also ask you, and everybody kind of helped everybody out a lot. It was pretty interesting group of people. And the amount of talent and where people were at, it was just hard really to describe. Like I said, you talk to somebody, you'd ask them, and they'd say, well, I have 13 books published. And then they would tell you about them, and they'd talk about what they'd done to, you know, both write them and then promote them. And I felt out of my league a lot there. I mean, it's like, wow. There was another lady there, and her name, I think, is, well, let me get my book. Hold on a second. Let me set my phone down. I'm just going to look at my notes here so I can talk about it without being an idiot. But
I'm going to take I'm going to try to do a selfie / broadcast. I don't know if it's going to work. There
you go. But she, I think it was Lori. I'll get her name because I'm going to try to recontact all these people and know. But she's written like 80 books or something in the last few years, and just a really prolific, very squared away, you know, incredible work ethic. You know, we had some discussions about, you know, how many books you can write well. But talking to her, and as she described her books and her process, I'm going to bet her books are probably pretty good, even though she's written 80 of them in the last 3 or 4 years, or 2 or 3 years, or whatever it is.
And what kind of she writes romance, is what you're saying?
Romance, but she's just one of those people you could tell she's a CPA, and you could tell that she was very organized. She's right, getting down to business with it. So, yeah. It's funny, I'm looking through some of my notes here and some of the things I made about what they said, and not all that's really that appropriate for placing on the internet. So the people that talked there, we had, of course, David Wright, Sean Platt, Johnny V. Truant opened it up. We had Mark Lefebvre. It's hard for me to say. I'll spell it and put it on the notes or something. He's the guy from Kobo. He talked about, you know, there's Kobo is in 190 international markets. And one of the things he talked about that's interesting in their sales data was that he said in the past, if you took the top 10 books, they're all romance all the time. But he said recently thrillers have actually beat out several of the top slots for how books have performed the best through their sales data and stuff like that.
You said thrillers do the best?
Yeah, thrillers do the best. Now, like they did really well and have done for the last 180 days, I think is the things. But now the top 10 would be like a thriller. The first 2 are thrillers, and then there's like 3 romances, and then a thriller, and then a fantasy, you know. So it wasn't all just thrillers, but he said that they are doing much better because he said up until recently, and I've heard this before, is that basically if you want to really sell books, you got to write romance, and that's it. But apparently people like other stuff too. So
yeah, there's a little bit more markets out there than that.
Julie Huss
Oh yeah, J.A. Huss, Julie Huss.
Us, yeah, and and she's interesting person to talk about, and she's hit some big time stuff. So just real quick, she writes, of course, erotic, and it's pretty filthy, I guess.
Yeah.
She's just somebody. She just basically doesn't give well. I'm trying not to use the profanity I normally use in this, but she didn't give a fuck. She really doesn't. I don't know what people think. But and I'm actually probably going to check out her book. She has the 18, which is some sort of superhero romance. It's kind of might be interesting. But she talked about doing a lot of merchandising, about building her tribe, and she has some pretty good a good street team.
Yeah, she's been on self-publishing podcast a couple times, I think.
And she does good, but she's real successful. Her job before she broke out, she was a pig farm smeller.
A pig farm smeller.
Yeah, that was her job, and apparently that kind of dried up. That job did or something, and she said, I really need to make some success in my writing. But apparently they have all kinds of regulations in Colorado, and there's kind of some controversy between like the pig farms and the cattle farms. And go out there and smell the pig farm and write a report, I guess.
That's ridiculous.
She talked about spending some money when you have it. She said in 1 year she spent $111,000 on Facebook ads or something like that.
Holy crap! Did she make it all back?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's what's scary about this is you look at the people who are doing really well are doing really well. So
$100,000 on Facebook ads seems a bit excessive to me. But hey, if you make it back, then I guess you make it back. I was cringing at spending $100 on Facebook ads.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. She talked about the difference between freegans, people who just want free stuff, and
okay, yeah.
And their tribe. But the impressive thing was about it is she had a really naturally developed group following on some of her Facebook pages, and it just seemed like she's just writing what she wants to write, getting the fan that she wants. She says if they don't want to be part of your fan group, then they don't have to. And it's she was fun to listen to. Let's just leave it at that for now. Maybe I'll get more organized and try to get some takeaway lessons from some of this. James from Podium Publishing came. I talked about him a little bit. He said one of the interesting things he talked about audiobooks is that depending on the genre, they have to be long enough where people don't feel like they're getting a deal. So that some fiction, if it's not 9 or 10 hours long, doesn't sell that well as an audiobook.
When you're talking about the selling fiction and whether or not it's long or not, you mentioned for everybody watching live, it was about half an hour ago, but on the feed, it's going to be last week. You mentioned the difference between writing a series or a serial versus just writing the whole book. What were they saying about that? Because I know in my experience writing my Second Star series, I started out with the idea of writing a 5-part serial, and every part was going to be 25,000 words, and I'd publish part of the serial every couple of months, but it obviously didn't work out like that. And I'm getting to the point now where I have the first book's 25,000 words. The second book is just shy of 45,000, and complete written words of the third book, I'm at 130,000. It's not going to end up like that because I've still got to take a whole bunch out. But I really wish that I would not have written the serial. I wish I had written the whole book in one shot and then published it. What do they say about it?
And when I was listening to it, I thought of kind of how I wish I'd done some things to kind of have the same thoughts. And I also thought about having this conversation before, but it came up, I think it was in one of the panel interviews, and somebody asked a bunch of them who are really successful. I mean, I think it was Julia Kent was talking, and probably has more success than I'll ever see. But But they said, well, what would you have done different if you could go back 5 years? She said she would have written the first complete series and just, spent the money on the best book covers, the best editing, and just made a total kick-ass, have them all branded and consistent with each other, and then started releasing them after they were completely done, or at least have the first 2 or 3 books completely done and edited and finished products, and the rest of the series at least finished in draft form. And I guess the point was just to have that whole product line, the whole story done. And like you were saying in the last podcast, is if you had written the whole thing at once, you would have known some things about the character in book 1 that you didn't really learn until you wrote book 3.
Right.
And I've had the same thing. I'm like, man, this character is so much more interesting now in book 3. I wish I'd known this in book 1. It would have been better. So
yeah, and I think that goes two ways, because I think they can go for character, and it can also go for plot, because like for instance, you're writing your 3rd book in your Ken Rowland series. They talk about writing all the books and then publishing them staggered. So you publish one, and then you wait a month or 2, and then you publish another one, and you wait a month or 2, and you publish another one. And that way you can catch the algorithms on Amazon that will push you up the rankings, instead of just publishing 1 or 2 every year. But I think that it works both ways, where if you write all 3 of those books and you have all 100,000 word books done on your computer, you can look at them and say, I can tweak this, I can foreshadow here in book 1 from book 3, and just make a better. Now, obviously, it's not going to work for everybody, and if you've got kind of a standalone, you're going to want to publish that, and then if you get a sequel, then, or if you make enough on that first book, then you can write a sequel. But it makes a lot of sense to write it all in one shot.
I think that it would be, and the thing is, I guess the takeaway lesson from that is be more patient. I've been trying to push things out and push myself, but if you're patient like that and get the whole series done, it would make things a lot easier and make a better product. I think all the books would be better. So that's definitely the way I'm going in the future, even though you don't get to have that satisfaction of publishing so often, because that is kind of fun. But Nick Stephenson talked a lot. And the reason I'm going to bring him up right now in our podcast is that he was there to talk about, like list building and finding your fans, finding your tribe and all that stuff. But he writes basically a series, but it's not, it's like 6 or 7 completely standalone novels that are all related. So you could kind of read them like a series, but they're really not a series.
Okay.
And it had some really good results with that. And, he had a lot of good stuff to say, again, a really nice guy. And the point was, of all this list building, I was always kind of skeptical of it and not really very.
Well, I think we just lost Scott there for a minute. And he was talking about list building, and I completely agree with him, as I've slacked, for lack of a better word, on my list building. And it's tough because, sometimes you don't know what to say. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to put in your email to build your list. And that's the only way to, to get bigger, if that's what you're looking to do. So
and that out, but my phone overheated and just completely died. So I guess it's. But basically, what was interesting is one of his books was his book 3 was a book that was really good, and he wanted to give away his best book for free to make the best impression on his readers. And so this is to best represent how he wrote. And so he took book 3, he made a book 1, and then made that one free because they're all standalone. I thought that was brilliant and awesome. And, you got to have a lot of respect for somebody who can write each book as a standalone like that. Because that's, to me,
having a series, that's almost seems like the way to go. Something that you can get the satisfaction, but still have the cliffhanger. You know, have
Absolutely.
The best one.
That's what I thought about doing with my sci-fi series, the big sci-fi series that I'm planning to write after Second Star. I'm planning on
the one that's
awesome. Just gonna make me $1 million in my pocket.
I can't wait to read it, man. That's going to be awesome.
You know, I've been thinking about the universe as a whole in that story, and I have a couple of stories planned out. And the Edge of Valor story is going to be in that universe, and then I have another one planned after that. But I also had an idea the other day that I've never thought about writing middle grade fiction. And I had an idea the other day about writing a middle grade novel about 15, 16-year-old boy with a little pet alien sidekick, and he goes on adventures. And I was like, that'd be a pretty fun story to write. And then I thought, well, what if I put that in the same universe as all the other books that I'm writing and link the timelines? And, I can have my conspiracy military space marine story that is a standalone, but in that series. And then I can have my main series, which is going to be, kind of like, for lack of a better term, Game of Thrones, but more Game of Thrones than The Expanse. Everybody said the Expanse was Game of Thrones in space, and it's really not.
Yeah. It's not.
But that's the idea, is you have several characters that are you develop good, firm characters in that, and then that's going to be my main series. But then why not have, if I'm going to build that series so much, why not just in every other genre include that in the universe that's happening, and then just link the timelines? But anyway, that was my idea with that, doing standalones and different series that are all in the same universe that bounce off each other. And so, I just think, if I do follow through with that middle grade fiction book, if a teenager or a boy reads that story now as a teenager, because that's his level, he's going to read that. And then if he's a reader, which most readers are, I mean, I started out reading the Hardy Boys and I still read, but if he reads my middle grade fiction now as a teenager, when he gets older, when he gets to be an adult, and whether or not he remembers me or not, he can look at that and go, oh, he's written some adult fiction, and go in and read my adult fiction too. And that would be kind of cool. But anyway,
that would be awesome.
Went on a side tangent. What's the number one thing that you think you learned at the Smarter Artist Summit? God damn. Okay, I'm going to try this.
Smarter Artist.
I got it. Okay, I'm ready. Hold on. Smarter Artist Summit. They should really have come up with a better name for that, because I can't pronounce it, and I don't think anybody else can either. And it's not because I'm 4 beers down. I need to try. Yeah.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: is if anybody who's read the Write, Publish, Repeat book, it emphasizes doing the work, working on your craft, writing every day, write a book, put the book out there, try to find people who like it, but immediately go to the next one. And that's still important. But what they also talked about, especially the Nick Stephenson guy, is that there's more to it than that. You got to do some of the other work too. And that's something I've really not paid attention to. So I want to finish the series I have, and I want to spend a little. Go ahead.
Sorry, you mentioned the other work too. I just wanted to. What
other so the other work would be things like the other work are things like. I mean, we all know, anybody who's interested in self-publishing knows that they say, write the best book possible. Okay. Get a great book cover. Okay. Get professional editing. All right. And put it out there. And then after that, it's like, well, you could do some Facebook ads. You could do a free Booksy promotion or try to get on BookBub, but it's kind of not a lot. And they say, build a list, an email list, so you can let people know when your next ones are out there.
Right.
So what they talk about, you got to do all those things, of course, but you want to find who likes your books, and then contact them and maintain contact with them. And like I said before, I wasn't really skeptical of reading lists and things, but it was just I was like, who cares what I got to say in an email letter? But if they like your book, and so there's ways like if you give away a book for free, and then at the end of it you say, hey, check, here's my list or my newsletter or whatever. Then they've already shown, hey, I read to the end of this book, I like it, and now they maybe do want more, and so then you're talking to the people who care, and that's who you want. And if you can maintain contact with them, and excuse me, then that's just really important. You don't need a lot, you just need a core group of people that are interested in what you're doing. Then you keep delivering things that they like and find entertaining, and that builds a core aspect because, like for example, KDP changed the Kindle Unlimited rules.
Right.
They change them. Seem like they change them all the time. I don't even pay attention to them anymore because they change all the time. But there's nothing to say that they can't change the rules again tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's very true.
Or Facebook could fall out of favor, and now all those people in your Facebook group who love your book, your Facebook doesn't like you promoting on there, and so they change the rules. But if you have
then we don't have to go back to MySpace.
Yeah, go back to MySpace or whatever the flavor of the month is for social media. But if you have contact, you basically, the message is you own your own list. So if you know who wants to read your books, and you can send them, somehow contact them and say, hey, I'm doing book 2, doing book 3, whatever. I got something you might like. Then those are all good things. So that's very important. They talked about publishing on multiple platforms. So you got your ebooks, you got your print books, but you should really be in a long-term, especially working on audio books. You might even be thinking about, different types of things like that. One of the things I didn't know that I learned, this is not going to apply to me anytime soon, but one of the attendees of the summit had a bad experience where they sold their book rights or they got a translation done in a foreign language. And I think they're talking about Brazil. And in most foreign countries, after you sell so many books, then that translator is vested as a intellectual property owner in that, and they get royalties from your product, from your book forever.
Oh, wow.
And so in some countries, after you sold, we'll just make up numbers, say 5,000 books. Once you sold 5,000 books in, let's say, Germany, then that person who translated, if they're a German citizen, I guess is how it works, then they get, say 10% of your books forever. And you're like, well, that's kind of weird. But in Brazil, they get 100%.
Wow.
And so a lot of the attendees had said they had been contacted by people wanting to do a translation into Portuguese. And it makes sense why, because they're like, well, we'll translate your book, and if it sells well, then
as the writer, do they get anything from the translation?
I don't. In that situation, if I understand what they're saying correctly, no. But in anything is, yes, you want to have a good translator, and I would, I wouldn't really have a big problem with them getting a percentage of the rights.
No, it's not fair.
What's a fair amount? 100% is not fair. Why even publish? So that's kind of crazy, and I would have never have guessed that there was, or particularly cared to look, because I'm not to that stage. But there were several people in there that were talking about international rights. They also talked a lot about at the summit that really English is the most most spoken language. There's more people in India speaking English than there is in other English-speaking countries and stuff. So, but you can't get into those markets as a traditional publisher, because if you get a contract with Random House and you sell the American rights or whatever rights like that, but they're not going to go out and negotiate rights for all
Right.
190 some countries where you could sell your book. Whereas if you do it digitally and you're an independent author, you can sell books everywhere. And there's like there's some sort of program, I guess, in India where they have a $5 smartphone, and where people in various parts of the world are going to be able to buy books like through their phone service. And since all of those markets, people speak English. If they're interested in your book, then that would be a pretty good market to be in, because it could potentially be a lot of writers. They talked about that. They talked about a lot of international optimization of your creative product, whether it's a book or any product really. They're real big on the audiobooks, that if you pick the wrong narrator, and they showed several examples of how it can not only ruin your audiobook sales, but it can ruin all your sales, because it can really turn people off. The other thing that's interesting is that audiobook, from what the studies are showing, is that audiobook listeners are not the same audience as ebook readers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
General, and that surprised a lot of people, because they're listening to audiobook. They're listening to them for different reasons and in different circumstances, and so I guess you would try to reach them and let them know about your stuff differently. But it makes perfect sense, because, well, there's two things. They talked about how everybody assumed that most audiobooks are listened to while people are driving, which was true. But now apparently that's changed, because now people will have it on their phone, so they'll listen to it while they're driving, and then they'll take the phone with them, and they'll go shopping, and they go mow the yard, they go for a run.
That's exactly how I do it. Whenever if I'm doing something that normal people would listen to the radio, I would be listening to audiobooks and, well, sometimes podcasts, but sometimes there's not a lot of there's not a podcast to go around, which is probably not true. I just haven't found all of them out there, but I found a lot. And there are a bunch, and I on iTunes, I think I subscribe to probably 15. But some of them, sometimes the topic of what they're discussing doesn't apply to me, or it's not something that I'm interested in, so I skip that. But I always listen to audiobooks. I think we've talked about it several times where we're trying to figure out what we're going to use our credit on, and I had 3 credits saved up until today. I picked up Eternal Starship, or Starship Eternal by
I have that on my list.
It's who MR or RM. I think it's MR Forbes. It's pretty good. I'm fairly impressed by it. Like we talked about in the last episode, I was listening to Kevin J. Anderson's "Dark Between the Stars," or something. It's dark. The Darkness Between the Stars. But I got kind of tired of it, so I went over to this Starship Eternal, and it's pretty decent.
I'm gonna check it out. I'll have to check that out. I'm on the drive down here. It's a long drive. I listened to a good portion of the Final Empire.
Yes,
with Sanderson. So
where are you at now in the book?
Yeah, but
for those of you that don't know, I started a Brandon Sanderson fanboy club on the Right Stuff, and so every episode that we have, we're going to have to mention the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn series and everything by him.
I met a few other fans here that were really they were way more into him than I was. And they're asking, "Well, have you read this and that?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just starting. I've read The Way of Kings, and I'm working on the Final Empire." But no, I'm at the part where
Vin.
What's the female lead's name? Vin. She has just about got killed when they assault the.
Oh yes, Creedic
Rulers.
Shaw. They attack Creedic. They attack Creedic Shaw, and the
Creedic Shaw.
Inquisitors almost kill her.
And they found out some things, and she's back, and now she's recovered. She's a little bit further than that because she's made a recovery. Now she's going back into the social life and doing some interesting stuff. So going to balls. So yeah, I think I listened to 7 hours of it, most of the drive. A couple of times I had to turn it off because I was trying to drive through around Dallas Fort Worth and trying to. It's like, oh, this is easy. I just take I-35 to Austin. That's no problem at all. I can do that. So I drive to Oklahoma City, and that's why I like the OWFI conference because it's like nothing, man. Driving to Oklahoma City from Wichita is like, look, I went to the bookstore.
Bye. Oh, we're there now.
I'm there. But going through all the way through the city can be annoying. Although the construction is much better now in Oklahoma City than it has been in the past. But that's not the case in Dallas. And I get there, and it's like, oh, I'm on 135, and I got to make sure I get on 35 West here. It's no problem. I'm doing that. It's pretty neat. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And there's just like to me, it's like not being from there. I'm like, it's like, what's 820? Interstate 820. I didn't look at Interstate 820 on my map. I went, and then all the other little things. I'm like, and there's a massive amount of construction. There's these clover leaves that are like, the road's like 700 feet. It's like being on top of the wall in the Game of Thrones. There, I'm like, man, that's scary driving up there. And all this half finished stuff. And I'm like, well, I really hope that I'm still on 135 West or 35 West because every other sign is Dallas Abilene, north to Dallas Abilene. I don't want to go north. I want to go south. I don't know what that is. And then sure enough, I was, of course, easy, and I just kept driving, and then I was on the right road again.
You went halfway across the country in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction. I know people who've done that in Texas at night, just like, man, I wish I could find a sign. Oh, now I'm not where I thought. But what made it rough was I didn't dare get off because I didn't know if I could get back on the road that I needed to be on. Because at least in this, where I was at, like where we're at, if you get off, you can kind of see where you get off and you can see the on-ramp to get back on. It's pretty simple. But some of these places, I was like, you get off and you get on an access road and you drive for, a quarter mile and then you get back on and there's all this construction. I'm like, you know what? If I get off, I may not be able to get back on. Again, not a huge deal, It's not like I'm not like I'm in some foreign country where I'm going to, get sold into slavery if I wander off the beaten path and get captured.
And now for your life,
but the problem was I had
serve coffee.
Yeah, but I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I mean, my eyeballs were literally floating. I'm like,
don't you hate
I'm
that?
going to die in my car.
I hate that when you're driving through big cities and you're like, I'll just wait until I get out of the city and I'll go to the rest stop because you don't want to pull off in the city because then you're screwed because you have to figure out how to get back on. You got to deal with all the city crap. But if you stop at a rest stop on the highway, you're like, I just pull off, do my stuff, and then I pull back on. It's simple. But then you're driving through the city. It takes you 40 minutes to get through the rest of the city that you thought was going to take 10. And then you pass a sign that says the next rest stop is 500 miles away. And you're like, oh my God.
700 miles.
I'm just going to stop right here on the side of the road like my mom did back in the day. Open the door and go at it.
I'm just going to do my thing right here on the side. And I thought about it. I'm like, I'll go anywhere. I don't care. But so that I get through all that, it's not a big deal. Again, like this is the most exciting thing I did that day, except for listening to audiobooks. But and then I'm driving, getting closer to Austin. And I did like the thing I like about in Texas, they have all these signs that says no trucks left lane. And so if the traffic's good, you can get in that left lane on the highway, you know where you're going, and you can just kind of haul ass. And so I'm smoking down the road, the speed of traffic's pretty good. And I get all the way to Austin, and I'd been warned by other people in the other attendees of the Smarter Artist that the traffic would be bad on 35. And I'm like, I want to see what they're saying. I mean, it's kind of busy. There's some people there you got to watch them because they're driving a little bit nutty. But this fast lane's moving fast, and I'll make a good time. And I was like whipping through Austin. I was like, this is great. This isn't bad at all. And all of a sudden, about 2 exits before I get to my hotel, it's like, okay, let's all stop now. And it took me like 35 minutes to go a mile and a half. And it was still okay because by that time I knew I was ahead of schedule, and I was like taking pictures of the downtown outside of my car because I was stopped, and it was really no stress there. But yeah, it does get pretty busy during rush hour. That's no joke.
Yeah, I would not.
It's not.
When the biggest city in Texas I've ever been in is San Antonio. When I went through basic training, and San Antonio has horrible traffic. You have to drive in circles to get where you're literally have to drive in circles to get where you're going. And, I laugh, especially for those of you that don't know, Scott and I live in Wichita, Kansas, and the most traveled road in town, most congested is US 400, or the we call it Kellogg. It's Kellogg Drive in the city limits. And it's a 6-lane highway that runs from the east to the west side of town. And everybody's like, I hate Kellogg. It's the worst road ever. I don't ever want to drive on it. There's so many accidents, which there are a few accidents. But I guarantee you go to like Austin, San Antonio, it doesn't.
And it's straight.
It's
and you're like, well,
yeah, exactly.
Well, I know
it doesn't curve. There's no curves. You don't have to do turnarounds. You don't have to look at you're not going under like 9 bridges on an interchange. It's not that bad.
Yeah. There's all. I remember at one point I was going. There's so much construction and they're working, and there's these huge areas that are blocked off, but you're driving past them. And I remember thinking, I bet you they got a porta potty. I can figure I can go in there, walk through their construction site. What are you doing? Nothing.
Don't worry about me.
Got things to do here.
Well, I think we're coming up on the hour for the episode, which is actually longer than we planned to go. This was a good episode, I think, to talk about. We'll probably have to revisit your notes after you have time to digest everything.
Yeah, I was thinking about some of that I talked about. I don't know that when they're talking about how much money they spent, that the one author did. I don't know if that's something they really talk about in public. So maybe cut that. But it was an impressive amount, I guess. I can leave it at that. And the thing is it totally makes sense, and it let me know that's a real. That if you're at that level where you're selling, millions of books and stuff, yeah, of course you would spend that much money on. I mean, I used to always think that like the Hunger Games was so annoying because they're like, yeah, it's this breakout bestseller. I'm like, it's because they had a $40 million advertising budget when it started. Yeah,
absolutely.
I could sell this. This is my new book right here with $40 million of advertising. I could make that. Probably get somebody to buy it,
and people would buy it.
Oh my God! Paper. It's like write your own ending. Write your own ending and beginning and middle.
I've written the title for you.
Yeah. That's the other thing. The last thing I'll say that it was really, really scary. And actually, I kind of got down when I was listening to that part of the summit. They're talking about some of the trends and where technology will be in 8 years. And they showed some articles about, I think it was in Japan, where an AI computer wrote a story for a contest, and it made the final round.
I did hear about that. I don't remember where I heard about that, but I heard about that somewhere.
Yeah, and that makes me one of the really interesting guys that I met here, Boyd Carver. I think I wrote his name down. I'll bring that back up later. But he writes prepper fiction, and does really well. And I was like, man, I'm going to go start reading his books because I need to start prepping for the end because this is Skynet right here that we're talking about. Okay,
it's good because but we've already passed August, whatever it is, 2000 something. So Skynet's been here and gone. So we're good for that.
Yeah. So we're clear, man. It's all good then. So I'll stop worrying. But so all right. So you want to wrap it up and whatnot?
Yeah. This is it's been a great. I mean, you've given us a lot of information, I think, and I think we're just barely scratching the surface of what you have gone through in the last couple of days.
It's going to take me a while to digest everything.
I think maybe either next week or the week after that, maybe we can revisit after you've had time to make some notes to yourself and get everything wrapped up.
Yeah, a little more organized. The big takeaway, I guess, I'd like to say in this episode before we finish up is that it's amazing how many people are here and how passionate they feel about their craft of writing. They want to write good stories that people enjoy, and how hard they work, and it's just incredible.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like if you want to be a full-time author and quit your day job, and these are the type of people that you are going to be held to their standard as far as work ethic, it's not something that can be easily done. It can be done though, and so that's awesome. But these people are working hard. I mean, they are really. Sometimes I was just kind of stunned at the kind of effort they put into to do what they did.
Kind of makes you think, man, we ain't doing enough. And then where are we going to find the time to do all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So it made me want to take my excuses and throw them out the window, because it's just, and I need to pare some things down. Like I really want to keep studying jiu-jitsu because I like it. And I'm in the band and I like it. And I have a good time with that. But I should probably let both those things go for a while. And I don't have to quit them, but I have to quit them for now. And so it needs to be work, family, and writing.
Absolutely.
Maybe some exercise, but that's really what I have time for if I want to pursue this dream. And I think that goes for any writer. That's about all you get time for. And if you just have writing, then you'd have an advantage. You'd have more time if you used it wisely, which is not always the case with people who have a lot of time.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of The Right Stuff. I'm Josh Hayes, my buddy Scott Moon here. We make up Keystroke Medium. We want you guys to come back for the next episode. If you're going to listen live, it'll be next Friday, hopefully between 9 and 10, barring any technical difficulties that we seem to have every episode. But we're going to put together an episode.
Hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties when we start having our first guests and stuff.
Yes. I will say tentatively in the month of April, we have one international guest, Ralph Kern. I've got him scheduled for the 22nd. He is a British sci-fi author who's written Endeavor and Erebus. I've read Endeavor. It's a pretty decent book. And we're going to have him on the show. We're also going to do a couple segments where we're going to be reviewing books and then hopefully interviewing the authors. So this month,
two
separate episodes. So this month we're reading Control, Alt, Revolt by Nick Cole. And hopefully I'm going to reach out to him here in the next couple of days and we'll have him on the show. And we're going to do those separate. Yeah. So thanks, guys, for listening. We really appreciate your time. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And please come back and listen to us for the next one.
All right. See you later.